What made you finally check your fiancé's burner phone? The blue glow from Mark's second phone lit up his face at 11:47 p.m. as I pretended to sleep beside him. For the third night this week, he was hunched over that damn burner phone, thumbs flying across the screen with the kind of urgency he used to reserve for texting me. I'd first noticed the Nokia flip phone 6 months ago, tucked behind his laptop charger on his nightstand. When I asked about it, Mark barely looked up from his dinner. Work thing, babe. You know how paranoid the firm gets about client confidentiality. Partners want us using separate devices for the Morrison case. It made sense. Mark worked 60-hour weeks at Peterson and Associates, and the Morrison pharmaceutical lawsuit was their biggest case this year. The kind that made or broke careers. I didn't think much of it until I started seeing the phone everywhere, in his gym bag, on the kitchen counter, always face down, always within arm's reach. Now, 2 weeks before our wedding, with RSVPs confirmed for 198 guests and my bare one dress hanging in our spare bedroom like a $4,000 question mark, Mark was texting someone at midnight with a smile I hadn't seen in months. The bed shifted as he turned away from me, shoulders curved protectively around the screen. I caught a glimpse of his expression in our dresser mirror, the same look he used to get when we first started dating, when every notification from me sent electricity through his whole body. My stomach clenched. I forced my breathing to stay deep and even, the way I practiced in those prenatal yoga classes my sister dragged me to before she had Emma. Except instead of preparing for new life, I was apparently preparing for the death of everything I thought I knew. The phone buzzed again. And again. Mark's thumb moved in quick, practiced swipes. Whatever conversation he was having, it wasn't his first. The muscle memory was too smooth, too automatic. This wasn't some late-night emergency with a client or a work crisis that couldn't wait until morning. 3 years together. 3 years of building a life, planning a future, combining Netflix accounts and fighting over whose turn it was to buy groceries. 3 years of him complaining that I left coffee rings on his nightstand, and me pretending not to notice when he forgot to put the toilet seat down. Normal couple stuff. Boring couple stuff. I thought boring was good. I thought boring meant stable. The Morrison case had supposedly wrapped up 4 months ago. I knew because Mark had taken me to Chez Laurent to celebrate the settlement, $47 million for their clients, and a bonus big enough to cover our honeymoon in Santorini. We toasted with champagne that cost more than my monthly student loan payment, and Mark had been genuinely excited, the kind of happy that you can't fake. So why did he still need the work phone? Mark finally set the device down and rolled toward me, slipping one arm around my waist. His breathing gradually deepened, but I stayed frozen, staring at the ceiling and listening to the soft hum of our air conditioner. The Nokia sat on his nightstand, silent now but somehow still screaming with possibility. Tomorrow was Thursday. Mark always showered at 6:30 a.m. sharp, 20-minute routine that never varied. 20 minutes was plenty of time to find out whether I was being paranoid or whether my entire life was about to implode in front of 198 people who'd already bought gifts from our registry at Williams-Sonoma. The next morning played out like a twisted version of our usual routine. Mark's alarm buzzed at 6:15 a.m., same as always. He kissed my forehead, mumbled something about an early meeting with the Hendricks divorce case, and padded toward our ensuite bathroom in his navy boxer shorts. I waited until I heard the shower start, counted to 30, then reached for the Nokia with hands that felt disconnected from my body. The phone was still warm. My thumb hovered over the power button for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Once I crossed this line, there was no going back. No more blissful ignorance, no more benefit of the doubt. Just truth, whatever that looked like. The screen flickered to life. No lock code. Mark had always been terrible with passwords, used the same 4 digits for everything. Our anniversary, 0617. My throat closed up when I realized he hadn't even bothered to secure this phone. Like he knew I'd never think to check it, or maybe like he didn't care anymore if I found out. The message thread at the top was simply labeled S with a red heart emoji. My finger trembled as I tapped it open. The first thing I saw was a photo. Sarah's face, flushed and breathless, taken from an angle that made it very clear she wasn't wearing anything. The timestamp showed yesterday, 3:47 p.m. Yesterday, when I'd been at my final dress fitting with my mom, agonizing over whether the bustle looked right. My vision blurred. The shower was still running, Mark's voice drifted through the door, singing off-key like he did when he was in a particularly good mood. I scrolled up with shaking fingers, my rational mind cataloging details while my heart tried to crawl out of my chest. Mark, Tuesday, 11:23 p.m. *, can't wait much longer. 2 weeks feels like forever *. Tuesday, 11:24 p.m. *, I know baby. But think about the house. Morocco. All that money just sitting there waiting for us *. Mark, Tuesday, 11:26 p.m. *, sometimes I wonder if we should just tell her. Get it over with Tuesday, 11:27 p.m. *, are you insane? Do you know how much she's spending on this wedding? Let her have her princess day. We'll tell her after the honeymoon *. Mark, Tuesday, 11:28 p.m. What if she finds out? Tuesday, 11:29 p.m. *, she won't. Emma thinks her sister is so perfect and trusting. Besides, who's going to tell her? Your groomsmen worship you, and my bridesmaids don't suspect anything *. The bathroom door handle turned. I fumbled with the phone, nearly dropping it as I shoved it back onto the nightstand and rolled away, pulling the covers up to my chin. Mark emerged in a cloud of steam and expensive body wash, humming that same tuneless melody. In the dresser mirror, I watched him pick up the Nokia, check it quickly, then slip it into his gym bag. You awake, babe? He asked, toweling off his hair. Barely, I managed, proud of how normal my voice sounded. I might be late tonight. Deposition's running long on the Hendricks thing. I almost laughed. 3 years together, and he was still a terrible liar. His towel was always the same, touching his neck right below his left ear, like he was checking his pulse. His fingers found that exact spot as he leaned down to kiss my cheek. No problem, I whispered against his jaw. Sarah's coming over anyway. Final headcount for the caterers. I felt him tense for just a moment before he straightened up. Great. You two have fun with all that wedding stuff. After he left, I lay in our bed, our king-sized, memory foam monument to 3 years of shared decisions, and stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. Sarah. My maid of honor. Emma's best friend since elementary school, which made her practically family. Sarah, who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning last Christmas. Sarah, who'd helped me pick out Mark's engagement watch. Sarah, who'd been texting my fiancé about waiting until after our honeymoon to destroy my life. The day dragged on like a sick joke. I called in sick to work, not technically a lie since I'd thrown up twice after Mark left, and spent the morning Googling things I never thought I'd need to know. How long do phone records take to subpoena, and can you cancel a wedding venue with 2 weeks' notice, and, in a moment of pure desperation, how to get revenge on cheating fiancé. That last search led me down a rabbit hole that would have been funny if my life wasn't imploding. Apparently, I wasn't the first woman to discover an affair right before her wedding. The internet was full of stories, women who'd cancelled everything and lost thousands, women who'd gone through with it anyway and regretted it, women who'd confronted the cheaters and been gaslit into thinking they were crazy. But none of them had discovered their fiancé was planning to take their honeymoon with the other woman. I kept coming back to that detail. Morocco. We'd booked a private riad in Marrakesh, $8,000 for 10 days that was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. Mark had insisted on the upgrade, said we deserved luxury after all the stress of wedding planning. Now I understood why he'd been so enthusiastic about the itinerary. At 3 p.m., my sister Emma called. Hey, bride-to-be. How are you feeling? 2 weeks. Emma's voice was so bright, so genuinely excited, that I almost broke down right there. She'd been planning this wedding almost as enthusiastically as I had, taking time off from her marketing job to help with last-minute details, arranging childcare for her daughter so she could be fully present for Aunt Jess's big day. It's getting real, I managed. Sarah stopped by the office today to grab something from me. She looked amazing, by the way. Whatever skincare routine she's doing is working. She was practically glowing. My stomach lurched. Oh yeah? She's so excited for Saturday. You know how she gets, already planning your bachelorette party activities down to the minute. Speaking of which, did you decide on the restaurant for Friday night? Because I made backup reservations at Marcello's just in case Chez Laurent was too expensive for everyone. The irony hit me like a slap. My maid of honor and sister were planning a celebration of my upcoming marriage while said maid of honor was screwing my groom and planning to steal my honeymoon. Emma, I heard myself say, hypothetically, if you found out something terrible right before a wedding, like, life-changing terrible, would you want someone to tell you? The line went quiet for a moment. Jess, what's wrong? You sound weird. Nothing, all the stress, you know? Making me paranoid. Okay, but to answer your question, yes. I'd want to know. Even if it hurt. Especially if it hurt. Emma's voice softened. Honey, is everything okay with Mark? Because if something's wrong, we can figure it out. That's what family is for. I closed my eyes. Emma didn't know that by we, she meant herself, me, and the woman who was actively betraying us both. Everything's fine. Just pre-wedding jitters. After we hung up, I found myself standing in our spare bedroom, staring at my wedding dress. The Vera Wang was everything I'd dreamed of, silk mikado with hand-sewn beading that caught the light like tiny stars. I bought it 8 months ago, back when my biggest worry was whether the alterations would be ready in time. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, can't wait for tonight. Bringing wine and all the final headcount drama. This wedding is going to be perfect. 2 hearts. I screenshot the message. I wasn't sure why yet, but some instinct told me to start documenting everything. Because if Mark and Sarah thought they could play out their twisted plan while I smiled and played the happy bride, they were about to learn just how wrong they could be. Sarah arrived at 7:30 p.m. sharp, just like she'd promised. I watched through our living room window as she pulled up in her white BMW, the one her parents had bought her for landing the marketing coordinator job at Brennan and Associates. She looked radiant stepping out of the car, wearing a coral sundress that showed off what appeared to be a fresh tan. Morocco tan, maybe. Jess. She practically bounced through our front door, 2 bottles of Prosecco in one hand and a thick folder in the other. Okay, I have spreadsheets. Like, actual color-coded spreadsheets. Emma thinks I've lost my mind, but your wedding is going to run like a military operation. She air-kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of expensive perfume, Tom Ford Black Orchid, the same scent Mark had given me for Christmas. The same scent I'd noticed lingering in our bedroom last week when I came home early from work. You smell amazing, I said carefully. New perfume? Sarah's face flickered for just a moment. Oh, this old thing? I've had it forever. You probably smell it more because it's almost empty. You know how fragrance gets stronger when you're scraping the bottom of the bottle. Lie number 1. I'd seen that exact perfume at Nordstrom 3 days ago for $180. Not exactly something you let sit around half empty. We settled on the couch with wine glasses and Sarah's intimidating folder. She'd organized everything by timeline, Thursday tasks, Friday tasks, Saturday morning, ceremony, reception. Each section had subcategories with contact numbers and backup plans. You've really thought of everything, I said, genuinely impressed despite everything. Even while planning to steal my life, Sarah was being the perfect maid of honor. I want your day to be flawless. You deserve that. She reached over and squeezed my hand, and for a split second, I saw genuine affection in her eyes. Which somehow made everything worse. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark, asterisk depositions running super late. Don't wait up. Love you, asterisk. The timestamp read 7:47 p.m. I held the phone so Sarah could see the screen, watching her reaction carefully. Poor Mark, she said, shaking her head. He's been working so hard lately. All those late nights. You're practically a lawyer widow. Tell me about it. Sometimes I feel like I barely see him anymore. I took a sip of wine. Actually, can I ask you something? As my maid of honor, you'd tell me if you thought something was wrong, right? Sarah's hand stilled on her wine glass. Of course. What do you mean? I found this phone the other day. A second phone that Mark has been using. He says it's for work, but the big case ended months ago, and he's still glued to it every night. I watched Sarah's face carefully. She was good, I had to give her credit. Her expression shifted to exactly the right mix of concern and confusion. That's weird. Have you asked him about it directly? He gets defensive. Changes the subject. I leaned forward conspiratorially. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Do you think Mark would ever cheat? The question hung in the air between us. Sarah set down her wine glass and turned to face me fully, her expression serious. Jess, honey, what brought this on? You're getting married in 2 weeks. This is supposed to be the happiest time of your life. That's not an answer. Sarah sighed. Look, I think Mark loves you. I've seen how he looks at you, how he talks about your future together. But... She paused, as if choosing her words carefully. Men get weird before big commitments. Maybe he's just processing everything in his own way. So you don't think he's seeing someone else? I think you're overthinking because you're stressed. Wedding planning makes everyone paranoid. It was a masterclass in deflection, but she'd made one crucial mistake. Earlier, her text had said she can't wait for tonight and that the wedding would be perfect with capital letters and a heart emoji. But sitting here in person, she seemed nervous, fidgety in a way that didn't match her enthusiastic text. I excused myself to use the bathroom and quickly grabbed Mark's iPad from our bedroom. We shared an iCloud account, something we'd set up last year for convenience that I'd completely forgotten about until now. His messages synced automatically. The thread with S had 3 new messages from 20 minutes ago. S, 7:28 p.m. asterisk at her place now. She's asking about the phone asterisk. Mark, 7:29 p.m. asterisk shit. What did you tell her, asterisk? S, 7:31 p.m. asterisk covered for you. But we need to be more careful. She's suspicious asterisk. My hand shook as I screenshot the conversation and airdropped it to my own phone. When I returned to the living room, Sarah was scrolling through her own phone, but she quickly put it away when she saw me. Everything okay? She asked. Perfect, I said, settling back onto the couch with a smile. Now, tell me more about these military precision wedding plans. We spent the next hour going through Sarah's meticulous plans, and I had to admit, even in my current state of emotional freefall, I was impressed by her thoroughness. She'd created contingency plans for everything from rain during our outdoor ceremony to Uncle Bob's inevitable drunken toast attempt. The photographer wants to start getting ready shots at 9 a.m. sharp, Sarah said, flipping through her color-coded timeline. Hair and makeup arrives at 8, which gives us a buffer in case anyone's running late. And I've already talked to your mom about keeping Aunt Linda away from the champagne until after the ceremony. I nodded along, playing my part while my mind raced. The woman sitting across from me had anticipated every possible wedding day disaster except the one she was actively orchestrating. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. What about the reception timeline? I asked, refilling our wine glasses. I want to make sure my speech doesn't run too long. Your speech? Sarah looked confused. I thought Mark was handling the thank you speech. Oh, he is. But I want to say something too. You know, thank everyone for coming, talk about how much the people in this room mean to me. I met her eyes directly. Especially the people who've been there through everything. The ones who really know me. Something flickered across Sarah's face, guilt, maybe, or fear. That's really sweet, Jess. I'm sure everyone would love to hear from you. My phone rang, interrupting the moment. Mark's name appeared on the screen. Hey babe, I answered, putting it on speaker. How are depositions going? Brutal. We're probably going to be here until midnight. Mark's voice sounded tired, but I caught something else underneath, excitement, maybe anticipation. How's the wedding planning going? Sarah's here with her famous spreadsheets. We're going through the timeline for Saturday. Tell Sarah I said thanks for keeping my bride sane, Mark said, and I watched Sarah's face light up at the sound of his voice. I know this wedding couldn't happen without her. He says thank you, I told Sarah, though she'd obviously heard. Tell him he owes me a dance at the reception, Sarah said, loud enough for Mark to hear. Did you catch that? Tell her she's got it. Actually, save me 2 dances. I want to thank my favorite maid of honor properly. The intimate tone in Mark's voice when he said favorite maid of honor made my stomach clench. Sarah blushed, actually blushed, while talking to my fiancé. After we hung up, Sarah seemed more relaxed, almost giddy. Mark's such a sweetheart. You're so lucky, Jess. I know, I said quietly. I really thought I was. The wine was making Sarah chatty. As the evening wore on, she started dropping little details that painted a clearer picture of just how long this had been going on. Remember that weekend in March when Mark had that last-minute work trip to Chicago, she asked while organizing the seating chart. The same weekend I had that marketing conference? I remembered. I'd been disappointed because we'd planned to look at honeymoon destinations that Saturday. Yeah, you both had terrible timing. Right? Although. She caught herself, then laughed. Never mind. What? Nothing, just funny how work trips always seem to happen at the worst times. But her smile was too knowing, too satisfied. They'd been together in Chicago. 3 months ago, while I was home alone eating leftover Chinese food and researching Morocco hotels, they were playing house in some downtown hotel. Sarah, I said carefully, can I tell you something? As my best friend? She nodded, leaning forward with wine-flushed cheeks. Sometimes I feel like I don't really know Mark anymore. Like he's become a stranger living in my house. The words were more honest than I'd intended, and my voice cracked slightly. Sarah's expression softened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the friend I'd known since college. The Sarah who'd helped me through my dad's cancer diagnosis, who'd driven 6 hours to bring me ice cream after my miscarriage 2 years ago. Jess. She started, then stopped. I could see her wrestling with something, maybe actual guilt. What? She shook her head. Nothing. Just, you deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. Like who? I asked quietly. Sarah's eyes widened, as if she'd said too much. Like anyone who really knows you. Anyone with eyes. But the way she said it, the way she couldn't quite meet my gaze afterward, told me everything I needed to know about how deep this betrayal ran. The evening continued with Sarah's meticulous wedding planning, but every detail felt like another twist of the knife. As she talked about the processional timing and reception layout, I found myself studying her face for signs of the woman who was planning to steal my honeymoon. Oh, I almost forgot, Sarah said, pulling out her phone. The florist confirmed delivery for Saturday morning, but they want to double-check the boutonniere count. How many groomsmen again? 7 including Mark, I answered automatically, though the number felt meaningless now. Sarah scrolled through her phone, and I caught a glimpse of her message notifications. Multiple texts from someone labeled M with a heart emoji. My stomach dropped as I realized she had Mark saved in her personal phone the same way he had her, single letter, heart emoji, like teenagers hiding from their parents. Actually, I said, setting down my wine glass, I need to ask you something else. About the bachelorette party Friday night. Of course. I've got everything planned. Dinner at Chez Laurent, then drinks at that new rooftop bar downtown. Very classy, very you. Chez Laurent. The same restaurant where Mark and I had celebrated his Morrison case victory. The same place he'd been so excited about taking me. Now it felt contaminated, like every special place in my life had been repurposed for their affair. How did you know I wanted to go there? I asked. I don't remember mentioning it. Sarah's hand froze over her wine glass. For just a moment, her carefully constructed facade cracked. You mentioned it once. That you loved it there. Another lie. I'd never told Sarah about our celebration dinner there. Mark must have suggested it, probably nostalgic about their stolen moments in what he thought was our special place. My phone buzzed with a text. Emma, how's the final planning session going? Sarah texted me earlier that she had the perfect surprise for this week. She's been so secretive lately. I looked up at Sarah, who was pretending to study her timeline spreadsheet. Emma says you have a surprise planned? Oh, just some little touches for the bachelorette party. Nothing major. But her cheeks flushed pink, and I knew there was more to it. I excused myself again, this time to get more wine from the kitchen, and quickly opened the iPad. The message thread with S had exploded with activity. Mark, 9:43 p.m. How much longer are you going to be there? S, 9:44 p.m. * another hour maybe. She's getting emotional. Talking about how she doesn't know you anymore *. Mark, 9:45 p.m. * shit. Think she knows? *. S, 9:46 p.m. * no. Just cold feet. But Mark, maybe we should wait longer. After the honeymoon feels cruel *. Mark, 9:48 p.m. * we talked about this. The house, the joint accounts, everything's easier if we wait. Besides, you said yourself she'd want the princess wedding *. S, 9:49 p.m. I know, but sitting here planning her bachelorette party while it feels wrong. Mark, 9:51 p.m. * don't go soft on me now. 2 more weeks and we can stop pretending *. The last message was timestamped just 3 minutes ago. They were texting about me while Sarah sat in my living room, drinking my wine, planning my final days of ignorance. I screenshot everything and returned to the living room with shaking hands. Sorry, had to check on the wine inventory, I said, settling back onto the couch. So about this surprise. Sarah's phone lit up on the coffee table between us. Mark's name appeared on the screen with an incoming text. She grabbed it quickly, but not before I saw the preview. Can't wait to. Work emergency, she said, typing a quick response. You know how it is. At 10 p.m. on a Thursday? Marketing never sleeps. Her laugh sounded forced. Anyway, where were we? But something had shifted. Sarah kept checking her phone, and her enthusiasm for wedding planning seemed to deflate with each passing minute. She was distracted, fidgety, like someone was somewhere else to be. Actually, she said, standing up abruptly, I should probably head home. Early morning tomorrow, and you need your beauty sleep. Not that you need it, you're going to be the most gorgeous bride ever. The compliment felt like salt in an open wound. Sarah gathered her papers and empty wine bottles with efficiency that suggested she'd been planning her exit. Thank you for everything tonight, I said, walking her to the door. I don't know what I'd do without you. Sarah paused in the doorway, her hand on the frame. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to say something real, something honest. Jess, She stopped, shook her head. I just want you to know that whatever happens, you're an incredible person. Don't ever forget that. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with the crushing weight of everything I now knew. I stood at my front door watching Sarah's BMW disappear down our tree-lined street, her taillights blinking once at the stop sign before vanishing into the darkness. The evening air felt thick with humidity and the weight of everything unsaid. Back inside, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat surrounded by Sarah's color-coded wedding timeline. Her handwriting was everywhere, neat, precise notes about vendor arrivals and photo schedules. The same hands that had written, can't wait much longer, to my fiancé just hours earlier. My phone buzzed. Mark, how did it go with Sarah? Everything on track for the big day? I stared at the message for a long time before responding, perfect. She's thought of everything. That's my girl. Both of you. Don't know what we'd do without Sarah. He'd said we like they were already a unit, like I was the third wheel in my own relationship. I opened the iPad again, compulsively refreshing their message thread like picking at a scab. 3 new messages had appeared since Sarah left. S, 10:34 p.m. * I'm free now. Where should I meet you? *. Mark, 10:35 p.m. * same place as last week. Room 412 *. S, 10:36 p.m. * on my way. She seemed really sad tonight. I almost felt bad *. Mark, 10:37 p.m. * don't. We've come too far to back out now. After Saturday, everything changes *. Room 412. They had a regular room at some hotel, probably the Marriott downtown where Mark claimed his firm put up clients. I'd driven past it countless times, never knowing my life was being systematically dismantled just floors above the lobby. I screenshot the conversation and added it to what was becoming a damning digital collection. 23 photos so far, ranging from explicit images to financial discussions about the house and something about joint accounts I didn't understand yet. The grandfather clock in our hallway chimed 11 times. Mark wouldn't be home until late, or at all, if past patterns held. Late depositions had become his Thursday night routine, which now made perfect sense. Sarah's marketing job had flexible hours, and Thursday was apparently when they played house at the Marriott. I found myself walking upstairs to our bedroom, then to the spare room where my wedding dress hung like a beautiful ghost. The hand-sewn beading caught the moonlight streaming through the window, each tiny crystal representing hours of work by some seamstress who believed in happily ever after. $4,000 for a dress I'd wear for 8 hours. $12,000 for flowers that would die in 3 days. $8,000 for a honeymoon my fiancé planned to take with another woman. The numbers felt astronomical now, like play money in a game I didn't know I was losing. My laptop sat open on the spare room desk, still showing the Morocco itinerary we'd finalized last month. 5-star Riyadh with a private pool, couples massage at the spa, romantic dinner under the stars. I clicked through the photos we'd bookmarked, the sprawling suite with rose petals on the bed, the rooftop terrace where Mark had planned to renew our vows at sunset. Except now I understood why he'd been so specific about the king-size bed and champagne service. Why he'd insisted on upgrading to the romance package with couples activities. He'd been planning their perfect getaway while I researched Moroccan customs and practiced basic French phrases. I opened a new browser tab and searched Marriott Downtown Seattle Room 412. The hotel's website showed a junior suite with city views, starting at $340 per night. If they'd been meeting weekly for months, Mark had probably spent more on their affair than most people's rent. The house phone rang, jarring me from my calculations. Our landline almost never rang anymore, mostly just telemarketers and my mother, who refused to trust cell phones completely. Hello? Jess? It's Emma. I know it's late, but I just got the weirdest call. My sister's voice sounded strained, worried in a way that made my stomach drop even further. What kind of call? Someone called asking about Mark's bachelor party. Some woman claiming to be coordinating with the hotel about room service for Saturday night. Thing is, Mark told Dave the bachelor party was just dinner at Murphy's pub. No hotel, no overnight anything. Emma paused, and I could hear her baby crying in the background. Jess, why would someone be calling about a hotel room if the guys are just having dinner? The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. Sarah's surprise for the bachelorette party. Her secretive behavior that Emma had noticed. The perfect timeline that would give Mark and Sarah an alibi for being out late together while I was supposedly celebrating my last night of freedom. Did the woman leave a name? I asked, though I already knew. She said she was calling from Brennan and Associates. Some marketing coordinator named Sarah. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered onto the hardwood floor. Emma's voice became a distant buzz as the full scope of their deception crystallized in my mind. Sarah wasn't just stealing my fiancé, she was orchestrating an elaborate alibi system. While I celebrated my bachelorette party at Chez Laurent, believing my friends were toasting my happiness, Mark would be at some hotel with her. And when I woke up hungover on Saturday morning, they'd both be there bright and early, helping me get ready for a wedding that was nothing more than an expensive performance. Jess? Jess. Emma's voice cut through my spiral. I picked up the phone with shaking hands. I'm here. What the hell is going on? Because I called Dave to double check, and he swears the bachelor party is just dinner. No hotel. But this Sarah woman had specific details, room numbers, catering requests, the works. I closed my eyes, trying to process the logistics. Sarah worked in marketing, which meant she had access to vendor contacts, event planning resources. She could easily pose as a coordinator calling on behalf of a client. The question was, how many other lies had she constructed around our wedding weekend? Emma, I need you to do something for me, and I need you not to ask questions yet. Jess, you're scaring me. Call the Marriott downtown. Ask about any reservations this Saturday night under Mark's name, or under Sarah Chen. Tell them you're calling from Peterson and Associates about a client event. Why would Mark have a hotel reservation on his bachelor party night? He's supposed to come home to you. The innocence in my sister's voice broke something inside me. Emma still believed in the fairy tale, still thought the biggest drama would be whether Uncle Bob stayed sober during toasts. Just, please. Call me back in 10 minutes. I hung up and immediately opened Mark's iPad again. The message thread with Sarah had gone quiet, which probably meant they were together now, planning phase 2 of whatever elaborate scheme this had become. But I scrolled back through older conversations, looking for mentions of Saturday night. There, buried in a thread from 2 weeks ago. Mark, May 15th, 11:47 p.m. *, booked the penthouse suite for Saturday. Same card as usual *. S, May 15th, 11:48 p.m. *, perfect. I'll handle the bachelorette party timeline. Keep her out until at least 2 a.m. *. Mark, May 15th, 11:49 p.m. You're sure the other bridesmaids won't get suspicious? S, May 15th, 11:52 p.m. *, please. Half of them think you're too good for her anyway. They'll just think we're being thorough *. Mark, May 15th, 11:53 p.m. What about Emma? S, May 15th, 11:55 p.m. *. Emma's easy. Tell her whatever she ants to hear. She adores you *. I screenshot the conversation, my hands moving automatically while my brain tried to process the casual cruelty in their words. Too good for her. Emma's easy. They'd been analyzing my relationships, figuring out how to manipulate the people I loved most. The landline rang again. Emma, calling back exactly 10 minutes later like I'd asked. There's a penthouse suite reserved under Mark Davidson for Saturday night, she said without preamble. Charged to a Peterson and Associates corporate card. But Jess, that's not the weird part. What's the weird part? I asked about the room service order, playing along. The woman said their system showed a romantic package. Champagne, rose petals, couples massage scheduled for Sunday morning. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. Jess, why would Mark book a romantic hotel suite on his bachelor party night? I couldn't answer. Couldn't explain that my maid of honor had spent the evening planning my bachelorette party while my fiancé booked their romantic weekend getaway. That they'd turned my wedding into an elaborate cover story for their affair. There's something else, Emma continued. I asked about other reservations, and there's a second room booked under Sarah Chen. Same dates, same corporate card. But when I asked about connecting rooms, the desk clerk got confused and said both names were listed on the penthouse suite reservation. Sarah had booked a decoy room. Another layer of deception in case anyone checked hotel records later. She thought of everything, every possible angle someone might investigate, every question that might arise. This wasn't a spontaneous affair, it was a calculated demolition of my life, planned with the same attention to detail she brought to my wedding timeline. Emma, I said quietly, I need you to come over. Now. And don't call anyone else first. What's wrong? Just tell me what's wrong. I looked around the spare bedroom at my wedding dress, the Morocco itinerary still open on my laptop, Sarah's perfectly organized timeline scattered across the desk. 48 hours ago, these had been symbols of my future. Now they felt like evidence in a crime scene. Everything, I whispered. Everything is wrong. Emma arrived 20 minutes later in pajama pants and a northwestern sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun and panic written across her face. She'd driven over without makeup, which meant she truly understood the urgency in my voice. My sister never left the house without at least mascara, not even for emergencies. Show me, she said without preamble, settling beside me on the couch where Sarah's wedding timeline still lay scattered like evidence. I handed her my phone, watching her face as she scrolled through the screenshots I'd taken. 27 images now, documenting months of betrayal in neat chronological order. Emma's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something approaching rage. Jesus Christ, Jess. How long has this been going on? At least 6 months, based on what I can piece together. Maybe longer. I pulled up the Madagascar conversation, pointing to the timestamp. Look at this one from March. They were together in Chicago while I was home researching honeymoon hotels. Emma studied the messages, her marketing mind automatically cataloging details. Wait. Look at this message from Sarah about the money just sitting there. What money? I'd been wondering the same thing. Mark made good money at the firm, but we weren't wealthy. Our joint checking account held maybe $15,000, mostly wedding funds from both sets of parents. Hardly worth scheming over. There's something else, I said, navigating to our banking app. Look at our savings account. Emma peered over my shoulder as I logged in. The balance showed $847.32. 3 months ago, it had been $23,000, my entire inheritance from Grandma Rose, plus Mark's bonus from the Morrison case. Where did it go? Emma whispered. I pulled up the transaction history, scrolling through months of transfers I'd never authorized. $5,000 to something called Pinnacle Property Management in February. Another $8,000 to Mediterranean Escapes LLC in March. Smaller amounts scattered throughout, $1,200 here, $900 there, all to companies I didn't recognize. He's been moving our money, I said, my voice barely audible. Emma, I think they're not just planning to leave me after the honeymoon. I think they're planning to disappear entirely. My sister grabbed the iPad, pulling up Mark's messages with Sarah again. Here, look at this one from last week. The house paperwork should be finalized by Monday. What house paperwork? We spent the next hour going down a rabbit hole of financial detective work. Emma's background in marketing made her surprisingly good at corporate searches, and what we found made my stomach churn. Pinnacle Property Management was a shell company registered in Nevada, with Mark Davidson listed as the primary contact. They'd used our money to put a down payment on a $340,000 condo in Henderson, just outside Las Vegas. The property had been purchased under both their names. Mediterranean Escapes LLC was a travel planning service specializing in luxury relocations. According to their website, they helped clients seamlessly transition to new lives in exotic locations. For $8,000, they'd apparently planned Mark and Sarah's escape route. Look at this, Emma said, showing me her laptop screen. Henderson, Nevada has no state income tax, and it's one of the easiest places to establish new residency. They could disappear there and be impossible to trace. My phone buzzed. Mark, depositions wrapped up. Crashing at Dave's place since it's so late. See you tomorrow night for dinner. Love you. He's not at Dave's, I said flatly, showing Emma the text. How do you know? Because Dave's wife posted on Instagram 20 minutes ago. Date night at the movies, just the two of them. I pulled up Tracy's Instagram story, a selfie of her and Dave at the AMC Theater, timestamp 11:47 p.m. Mark's at the Marriott with Sarah, probably planning their next moves. Emma stared at the phone, then at the banking information, then back at the screenshots of their messages. Jess, this isn't just an affair. This is fraud. They've stolen your inheritance, forged your signature on financial documents, probably committed a dozen felonies. The weight of it hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about a cheating fiancé anymore. Mark and Sarah had systematically stolen my money, planned their escape, and orchestrated an elaborate con that would leave me financially ruined and emotionally destroyed. We need to call the police, Emma said, reaching for her phone. Wait. I grabbed her wrist. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? Jess, they've committed actual crimes. You could lose everything if we don't act now. I looked around our living room, at the wedding present stacked in the corner, at the save-the-date photos on the mantel, at the life I'd built that was apparently nothing more than an elaborate facade. They think they're so smart, I said quietly. 2 more days of playing the happy bride while they finalize their plan. But Emma, what if we let them think they've won? What if we use Saturday against them? My sister stared at me like I'd lost my mind. You want to go through with the wedding? I want 198 people to see exactly who Mark Davidson and Sarah Chen really are. The next morning, Emma and I sat in my kitchen with laptops, legal pads, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. Somewhere between 2 a.m. and dawn, my grief had crystallized into something harder, more focused. If Mark and Sarah wanted to play games, I'd show them what a real strategic mind could accomplish. Okay, so I called my friend Janet at the DA's office, Emma said, hanging up her phone. Hypothetically speaking, if someone had evidence of financial fraud but wanted to wait 48 hours before pressing charges, that wouldn't compromise the case. And the wedding venue? I spoke to Monica at Westfield Gardens. The deposit is non-refundable, but if we go through with the ceremony tomorrow, we can modify the proceedings without additional charges. I scrolled through my phone, looking at the vendor contracts I'd signed months ago when my biggest worry was whether the centerpieces matched my vision. The photographer is paid in full. DJ too. And Sarah was right about one thing, canceling now means losing almost $30,000. Emma winced. Money that's already been stolen anyway. My laptop chimed with a new email. Mark, sent at 7:23 a.m. Good morning, beautiful. Can't believe tomorrow is the day. Breakfast meeting with the partners ran long, so I'll grab clothes from home around lunch and head straight to the rehearsal dinner. Dave's handling the rings. Love you more than you know. I screenshot the email and added it to my growing collection. He's not even trying anymore. Look at this timestamp. Dave told me yesterday that Mark requested the morning off for pre-wedding relaxation. So where is he really? I opened the iPad and navigated to Mark's location services, something I'd never thought to check before. The little blue dot showed him at an address I didn't recognize, 412 Pine Street, which according to Google Maps was a luxury apartment complex downtown. Sarah's place, I realized. They're not even bothering with the hotel anymore. Emma pulled up the apartment complex website. Jesus, Jess. Look at these rental prices. 2-bedroom units starting at $3,200 a month. How is Sarah affording this on a marketing coordinator salary? The answer came to me with sickening clarity. She's not. Look at our bank records again, those mysterious transfers to property management. I bet if we dig deeper, we'll find Mark's been funding her lifestyle for months. We spent the next hour tracing financial breadcrumbs. The $1,200 monthly transfers to Pinnacle Property Management matched exactly with Sarah's rent payments. Mark hadn't just been having an affair, he'd been playing house, using our money to bankroll their fantasy relationship while I budgeted grocery trips and skipped manicures to save for the wedding. There's something else, Emma said, her voice tight. I called the venue about tomorrow's timeline, just to double-check Sarah's coordination notes. Monica seemed confused about some of the details. What kind of details? Sarah told us the photographer wanted to start at 9 a.m., right? But when I confirmed with Monica, she said Sarah had specifically requested that the bridal suite be reserved until 3 p.m., with no interruptions. She said Sarah was very insistent about privacy during the emotional preparation time. The timeline clicked into place in my mind. Sarah wasn't just planning to keep me occupied during the morning, she was ensuring that she and Mark would have hours of uninterrupted time together before the ceremony. Probably for some twisted goodbye ritual before they executed the next phase of their plan. Emma, I said slowly, what if they're not planning to wait until after the honeymoon to leave me? What if tomorrow is supposed to be their exit strategy? My sister looked up from her laptop, her face pale. What do you mean? Think about it. All our money has been moved to accounts I can't access. My inheritance is gone. After tomorrow, we'll be legally married, which gives Mark access to everything, my trust fund from Dad, the life insurance policies, even my 401k if something happened to me. The words hung in the air between us, too terrible to fully process. Emma grabbed my hand across the kitchen table. Jess, you're scaring me. You think they would actually? I think they planned this down to the last detail, and we're only seeing part of it. I called in sick to work again Friday morning, claiming food poisoning. It wasn't entirely a lie, the constant knot in my stomach made eating impossible, and I'd thrown up twice since Emma left at 3 a.m. My phone had been buzzing all morning with excited messages from bridesmaids, vendors confirming final details, and my mother sending increasingly frantic texts about tomorrow's timeline. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming, everyone else was celebrating while I sat in my kitchen planning what felt like a controlled demolition of my own life. MOM, 9:15 a.m. *, can't sleep. My baby girl gets married tomorrow. Dad's crying over his speech already *. Bridesmaid chat, 9:23 a.m. *, Sarah says bachelorette dinner moved to 8 p.m. More time to get gorgeous. 2 hearts *. Mark, 9:45 a.m. *, picking up my tux at 2. Then stopping by the office to tie up loose ends before our honeymoon. Can't wait to marry you tomorrow, babe *. That last message made my hands shake. Tie up loose ends probably meant transferring the last of our accessible funds or finalizing whatever legal documents would complete their theft. I opened the iPad to check their messages, but the thread with S had gone dark since last night. Either they were being more careful, or they were together in person planning the final details. At 11:30, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a navy suit holding a clipboard, definitely not one of our vendors or wedding guests. Jessica Martinez? I'm Detective Ray Chen with Seattle PD, Financial Crimes Division. My heart stopped. Chen, was he related to Sarah? The universe couldn't be that cruel. I'm sorry, is this about my fiancé? Has something happened to Mark? Detective Chen shook his head. Ma'am, I'm here because your bank flagged several suspicious transactions on your accounts. Large transfers to out-of-state entities, signature discrepancies on withdrawal forms. They're required to report potential fraud to our department. I let him in, grateful that Emma and I had cleaned up our detective work before she left. The coffee table now held only bridal magazines and vendor contracts, normal pre-wedding chaos instead of evidence of systematic betrayal. When did these transactions occur? I asked, playing innocent. Over the past 4 months. The bank system flagged them yesterday when you logged in multiple times to check balances. Mrs. Martinez, do you have any reason to believe someone might have unauthorized access to your accounts? This was it. I could tell Detective Chen everything right now, show him the screenshots, the evidence of Mark and Sarah's affair, the proof that they'd stolen my inheritance. End this nightmare before tomorrow's ceremony. Instead, I heard myself saying, I gave my fiancé access to our joint accounts for wedding expenses. Maybe there's been a miscommunication with the vendors? Detective Chen made notes on his clipboard. The bank mentioned transfers totaling nearly $22,000 to Nevada-based companies. Large amount for wedding expenses. We're having a destination honeymoon in Morocco, I lied smoothly. Very expensive travel planning service. Ma'am, the companies in question appear to be property management and relocation services. Not travel agencies. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, * emergency bridesmaid meeting at my place at 2 p.m. Last-minute dress crisis with Ashley's alterations. Can you bring your sewing kit, *? I showed Detective Chen the message. My maid of honor needs help with wedding preparations. Could we possibly continue this conversation next week? After the honeymoon? Detective Chen studied my face carefully. Mrs. Martinez, if someone has unauthorized access to your accounts, waiting could result in additional losses. Are you certain you want to postpone this investigation? Completely certain. It's probably just wedding stress making everything seem suspicious. After he left, I sat in my empty house feeling like I'd just jumped off a cliff. Emma was going to kill me when I told her I'd send away our best chance at stopping Mark and Sarah before they could disappear entirely. But something about Detective Chen's timing felt wrong. Sarah's emergency bridesmaid meeting coming exactly 30 minutes after a financial crimes detective showed up at my door? Either it was the world's most incredible coincidence, or they somehow knew their plan was falling apart. I grabbed my keys and headed for Sarah's apartment. If they wanted to play their final hand, I needed to see exactly what cards they were holding. Sarah's apartment building was exactly as expensive as the website had suggested: marble lobby, doorman in a pressed uniform, the kind of place that screamed funded by someone else's money. I'd never been here before, which should have been my first red flag. What kind of best friend never invites you to her home? The doorman called up to announce me, and I caught him saying Miss Chen instead of Sarah. Even he knew her better than I did. 20th floor, he said, gesturing toward the elevators with gold-plated buttons. The hallway was silent except for my heels clicking against marble floors. Unit 2012 had a wreath on the door, white peonies and eucalyptus, the same flowers I'd chosen for my wedding bouquet. Another small knife twist in an already devastating week. Sarah opened the door wearing yoga pants and an oversized Northwestern t-shirt that looked suspiciously familiar. It took me a moment to realize why Mark had the same shirt. His Northwestern MBA program shirt that had mysteriously disappeared from our laundry 3 months ago. Jess. Perfect timing. Ashley's dress is a complete disaster, and we need all hands on deck. Sarah's smile was bright, but her eyes were red-rimmed like she'd been crying. Come in, come in. Want some coffee? I followed her into an apartment that was definitely not affordable on a marketing coordinator's salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows with city views, kitchen island made of actual marble, furniture that belonged in architectural magazines. The living room alone was bigger than my entire first apartment after college. Nice place, I said carefully. The rent must be incredible. Oh, I got lucky. Corporate housing through work. Brennan and Associates has connections with developers downtown. Another lie. I looked up Brennan and Associates that morning, a mid-sized marketing firm that definitely didn't provide luxury housing for entry-level employees. Where's Ashley? I asked, looking around the empty apartment. And her dress emergency? Sarah's face flickered for just a moment. She's running late. Traffic from Bellevue, you know how it is. Should be here any minute. I set down my purse and sewing kit, taking in more details. Mail scattered on the kitchen counter with both Sarah Chan and Mark Davidson's names. A Northwestern coffee mug in the sink, Mark's favorite, the one he'd claimed broke months ago. Men's dress shoes by the door that were definitely Mark's size. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. What's up? I pulled out my phone and showed her Detective Chen's business card. Do you know anyone in the Seattle PD? Someone called Chen? The color drained from Sarah's face so quickly I thought she might faint. She grabbed the kitchen counter for support, her knuckles going white. Why would you ask that? Just wondering. He came by this morning asking about some banking stuff. Routine investigation, he said, but the timing seemed weird. Sarah's hands were shaking now. She turned away, ostensibly to pour coffee, but I could see her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator. She looked terrified. Sarah, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Nothing's wrong. Just pre-wedding stress. You know how I get. But her voice cracked on the last word. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, * Ashley's at her office. Call to confirm bridesmaid meeting. She has no idea what you're talking about, *. I looked up at Sarah, who was still facing away from me, her shoulders rigid with tension. The apartment felt different now, not like a home, but like a stage set. Too perfect, too clean, like someone had scrubbed away evidence of real life. Sarah, I said quietly, there's no bridesmaid meeting, is there? Sarah's reflection in the refrigerator door went completely still. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the air conditioning and the distant traffic 20 floors below. When she finally turned around, her face had transformed. The bright, helpful maid of honor mask had slipped away, revealing something harder underneath. No, she said simply. There's no bridesmaid meeting. I stayed perfectly calm, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. Then why am I here? Sarah walked to the living room windows, staring out at the Seattle skyline. Because I needed to see if you knew. About Detective Chen showing up this morning. How did you? Mark's been monitoring your phone for months. Location tracking, message alerts, the works. The app sends notifications whenever you're contacted by law enforcement. She laughed, but it sounded broken. He got the alert at 11:47 a.m. Jessica Martinez contacted by Seattle PD Financial Crimes Division. The room tilted around me. Mark had been tracking my phone. How many other invasions of privacy had I missed? How long had they been watching me, cataloging my movements, preparing for exactly this scenario? Sarah, what the hell is going on? She turned from the window, and I saw tears streaming down her face. We never meant for it to go this far. It was supposed to be simple. Mark would leave you after the honeymoon, we'd move to Nevada, start over clean. But then the Morrison case money wasn't enough, and your inheritance was just sitting there, and Mark said it would be easy to access after you were married. You were planning this before we even got engaged. No. God, no. It started last year at Emma's birthday party. Mark and I were both drunk, and you were sick with that flu, remember? You stayed home, and we just connected. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. I remembered that night. I'd been miserable with a 102-degree fever while Mark insisted he should still go to Emma's party since the reservations were already made. He'd come home at 3 a.m. smelling like perfume, but I'd been too sick to process it. That was 14 months ago, Sarah. I know. I know how it sounds. But we tried to stop, Jess. We really did. Mark broke it off in December, said he couldn't do it to you anymore. But then your dad's trust fund matured, and suddenly there was all this money, and Mark's gambling debts were getting worse. Gambling debts? Sarah clapped her hand over her mouth, realizing she'd revealed something I wasn't supposed to know. What gambling debts, Sarah? She sank onto the leather couch, burying her face in her hands. The Morrison case bonus never happened. Mark lied about that too. The case settled, but he'd been skimming from client accounts to cover his poker losses. The firm found out last year. They gave him 6 months to pay back $89,000 or face criminal charges. My legs gave out. I grabbed the kitchen counter, the same marble surface Sarah had gripped minutes earlier when she thought her world was crashing down. Jess, I'm so sorry. This wasn't supposed to hurt you this much. How exactly was stealing my inheritance and abandoning me after our wedding supposed to not hurt me? Mark said you'd be better off without him. He said you deserved someone who wasn't drowning in debt and addiction. We were going to send you money once we got settled, help you rebuild. With my own stolen money. Sarah's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Mark's name appeared on the screen with a message preview. Chin still there? Plane tickets confirmed for Sunday 6 a.m. Almost over. I screenshot the message with my own phone before Sarah could grab hers. You're leaving Sunday, I said. Right after the wedding. Jess, please. Let me explain. 6 a.m. flight. Where to, Sarah? Vegas? Or somewhere without extradition treaties? Her silence told me everything I needed to know. My phone rang, cutting through the thick silence in Sarah's apartment. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Sarah said quickly, but I was already swiping to accept. Jess, where are you? I just got the weirdest call from Detective Chin. He said you told him everything was fine, but the bank flagged 3 more transfers this morning. Large ones. I kept my eyes on Sarah, whose face had gone ashen. How large? Your dad's trust fund. All of it. $127,000 transferred to something called Pacific Northwest Holdings LLC at 9:23 a.m. Jess, that's everything. Your entire safety net. Sarah was shaking her head frantically, mouthing no, no, no like she could somehow undo what had already been done. Emma, I'll call you back. I hung up and turned to Sarah. $127,000. This morning. While you were texting me about fake bridesmaid emergencies. I didn't know. Sarah's voice cracked. Mark said he was just moving money to secure accounts before the wedding. He said it was temporary. Bullshit. I pulled up the banking app on my phone, my fingers trembling as I logged in. The trust fund account showed a balance of $0. Last transaction, 9:23 a.m., authorized by M. Davidson, joint account holder, postmarital access. We're not even married yet, I whispered. How did he get postmarital access? Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time it was a call, not a text. Mark's name and photo filled the screen, a picture I'd taken of him last Christmas, laughing over morning coffee in our kitchen. Back when I thought we were happy. Answer it, I said. Put it on speaker. Jess, I can't. Answer the fucking phone, Sarah. With shaking hands, she swiped to accept and tapped the speaker icon. Baby, we have a problem. Mark's voice filled the apartment, intimate and urgent in a way that made my stomach turn. The bank called. Someone's been checking the accounts obsessively. They're asking questions about the Nevada transfers. Mark, she's here, Sarah whispered. The line went dead silent. I could practically hear Mark's brain recalibrating, shifting from lover to damage control mode. Jess. His voice was different now, careful, measured. I can explain everything. Can you explain why you transferred my trust fund this morning? Money you had no legal right to touch? The wedding is tomorrow. After the ceremony, we'll be married. I was just moving assets to protect them during the honeymoon. International travel, you know how it is with banking security. Even now, even caught red-handed, he was still lying with such smooth confidence that I almost understood how he'd fooled me for so long. To a Nevada LLC that you and Sarah control? Another pause. How did you? Never mind. Jess, you're not thinking clearly. Wedding stress can make anyone paranoid. Why don't you go home, take a bath, and we'll sort this out after tomorrow? Mark, I found your burner phone. I've read every message between you and Sarah for the past 6 months. I know about the gambling debts, the client accounts, the condo in Henderson. I know everything. The silence stretched so long I wondered if he'd hung up. Finally, where are you right now? Something in his tone made my blood run cold. Not angry, not panicked, calculating. Why does that matter? Just wondering. Sarah, is Jess at your place? Sarah looked at me with genuine fear in her eyes. Mark, don't. Sarah. His voice turned sharp. Is she there or not? I grabbed my purse and keys, every instinct screaming at me to leave. Now. Tell him I left, I mouthed to Sarah. Tell him you don't know where I went. But Sarah was frozen, staring at the phone like it might explode. Yes, she whispered. She's here. Good. Keep her there. We need to talk. The click of the apartment door lock engaging behind me made my blood freeze. Sarah's finger was still on the deadbolt, her face a mask of apology and terror. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Jess, but we're in too deep now. I backed toward the windows, my phone clutched in my trembling hand. 20 floors up. No balcony. No other exit except through Sarah, who was blocking the only door. Mark will be here in 10 minutes, she said, wrapping her arms around herself. He just wants to talk. To explain. Sarah, unlock that door right now. I can't. If you leave, if you call the police. Mark says we'll all go to prison. The client accounts he borrowed from, they're connected to people who don't forgive debts. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, something's wrong. Dave just called asking if I knew where Mark was. He never showed up to get his tux, missed his afternoon meeting. Where are you? I typed back quickly, Sarah's apartment. 412, Pine Street, Unit 2012. If you don't hear from me in 30 minutes, call Detective Chin. Sarah saw me texting and lunged forward. Jess, please don't. I dodged around her, making it to the kitchen before she grabbed my wrist. We struggled for the phone, and in the chaos, I managed to hit send before Sarah wrestled it away from me. You don't understand, she panted, clutching my phone to her chest. Mark has contingency plans. If we get exposed, if the police get involved, he has evidence that makes it look like I forged your signatures. Like I manipulated both of you. Did you? Sarah's laugh sounded broken. Some of them. The Nevada property, the LLC paperwork. Mark said it was just to protect us, but now I realize he was protecting himself. Setting me up as the fall guy if everything collapsed. The elevator dinged in the hallway outside. Sarah's face went white. He's here. The apartment door opened without a knock. Mark had a key. Of course he had a key. He stepped inside looking like the successful lawyer he'd always pretended to be. Expensive suit, perfect hair, that confident smile that had charmed my parents, my friends, me. Jess. He said my name like we were still engaged, like tomorrow's wedding was still happening. You look beautiful. Ready for our big day? Give me my phone back, Mark. In a minute. First, we need to discuss some changes to our arrangement. He moved to the kitchen island, positioning himself between me and the door. The police involvement is unfortunate, but manageable. My sister knows where I am. Emma's at her office in Bellevue. 30-minute drive minimum, assuming she left the moment you texted. Which gives us time to reach an understanding. Mark opened a briefcase I hadn't noticed him carrying. Inside were plane tickets, passports, and a thick manila envelope. 3 tickets to Costa Rica, he said conversationally. Departing Sunday morning, but we can move that up if necessary. No extradition treaty, beautiful beaches, very low cost of living. 3 tickets? You, me, and Sarah. The happy triple starting fresh in paradise. I stared at him, trying to process the sheer audacity. You think I'm going to run away with you? After you stole my inheritance and cheated on me for over a year? Jess, I never stopped loving you. This thing with Sarah, it was complicated, but it doesn't change what we have. What we could have in Costa Rica, away from all the stress and financial pressure. Sarah made a strangled sound. Mark, you said we'd be together. Just us. Plans change, baby. Having Jess along gives us legitimacy. A married couple on extended honeymoon looks much less suspicious than 2 fugitives. The manila envelope contained bank statements showing accounts in Costa Rica. The balances made me sick, $847,000 across 3 different banks. My inheritance, Mark's stolen client funds, and money from sources I couldn't even identify. This is insane, I whispered. This is survival, Mark corrected. Those client accounts I borrowed from? They belong to Viktor Petrov's organization. You don't pay back the Russian mob with an apology and a payment plan. My phone, still in Sarah's hands, started ringing. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer that, Mark said sharply. But I could see Sarah wavering, her grip on the phone loosening. The ringing continued, insistent and somehow hopeful. Sarah, I said quietly, this isn't who you are. You held my hair when I was sick. You helped me pick out my engagement ring. You're not a criminal. She is now, Mark said. We all are. The only choice is whether we're criminals in American prisons or criminals on a beach in Costa Rica. The ringing stopped. Then started again immediately. This time, Sarah answered. Emma, she whispered. Where's my sister? Emma's voice came through the phone speaker, sharp with panic. I'm in the lobby of your building, and the doorman says Mark Davidson just went upstairs. What the hell is going on? Mark lunged for the phone, but I was faster. I grabbed Sarah's wrist and shouted into the speaker, Emma, call Detective Chen. Mark's trying to kidnap me. He stole everything. The phone flew across the room as Mark shoved Sarah aside to get to me. It landed near the windows, the screen cracked but still connected. Building security is coming up, Emma's voice echoed through the apartment. I told them there was a domestic violence situation in progress. Mark grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. We're leaving. Now. All 3 of us. Let go of me. Mark, stop. Sarah stepped between us. This isn't the plan. You said no one would get hurt. Plans change. He backhanded Sarah across the face, sending her stumbling into the kitchen island. Both of you moved toward the door. Now. But Sarah straightened up with blood trickling from her split lip and something new in her eyes. Something that looked like clarity. No, she said simply. The pounding on the apartment door started 30 seconds later. Seattle PD. Open up. Mark's perfect composure finally cracked. He released my arm and ran his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. This doesn't end here, he said, pointing at me. You think you've won? I'll drag you down with me. Sarah too. We're all going to prison. Seattle PD. We're coming in. The door burst open just as Mark reached for his briefcase. 2 officers in tactical gear swept into the apartment, weapons drawn, shouting commands I could barely process. Mark raised his hand slowly, that lawyer's brain already calculating his next move. Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. This is my fiancé, and we're having a pre-wedding disagreement. Detective Chen appeared in the doorway behind the tactical team, taking in the scene with experienced eyes. Mr. Davidson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. Ms. Chen, you too. As they cuffed Mark, he looked at me one last time. You'll never get the money back, Jess. It's gone. All of it. But he was wrong. 6 months later, I stood in a courtroom wearing a navy blue suit instead of a wedding dress, watching Mark Davidson get sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Sarah got 5 years and full cooperation credit for testifying against him and helping recover $600,000 of the stolen funds. The Russian mob connection turned out to be another lie. Mark had been stealing from elderly clients' estate accounts, not organized crime. Just another manipulation to keep Sarah and me compliant and terrified. Emma held my hand as the judge read the sentence. How do you feel? She whispered. I thought about it. The wedding that never happened. The money we'd recovered. The friends who'd rallied around me when the truth came out. The new apartment I'd found, smaller but mine alone. The therapy sessions that were slowly teaching me to trust my instincts again. Free, I said finally. I feel free. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For just a moment, my heart clenched with old fear. But it was Detective Chen. Your victim impact statement made the difference. Justice served. Outside the courthouse, reporters wanted quotes about